Hey there, hope you're doing well. In this video, let's quickly talk about building UI components, user interfaces when the API is not ready or hasn't even been designed to a large extent, right? Because we find ourselves in this scenario quite a bit depending on what I'm working on at any given point of time. I try to have the APIs ready so the UI team can actually start working on the almost the final version of the APIs, but that's not always possible, as we all know. Depending on the sequence of events and what we want to get done in any given sprint, we might end up building different pieces during that sprint. So I might just be working in UI for a month, for instance, so the API could just be lagging behind. What happens in that case, and how do you want to go about doing it? Because I guess the basic answer is that you want to keep your dependencies separate. So you want to stub out the API responses and just know what that spec is going to look like, right? So just lock down your spec to a large extent and then you're good to go. But I've seen that it's easier said than done, simply because in my experience I've seen the UI team and even when I'm part of the UI team, there is a sense of reluctance for whatever reason. And one of the reasons is that no matter how you think the API definition is etched in stone, 9 out of 10 times when you actually go to do the integration, you find all these gaps. Maybe the attribute naming is different, maybe the API route is different, maybe the responses are different from what the UI team was expecting. So there's a number of reasons, but long story short, there is that hesitation. But unfortunately, there is, you can't always say that the APIs will be ready before the UI team can start designing, building, work on the UI and UX, for instance. So they're going to have to make some assumptions. And I say they, but when I'm in the UI team, it would be we. We would have to make some assumptions. How can you come up with a list of good assumptions to make? Here are some pointers. One is, you even if you don't have the spec locked down, you still need to have an idea, right? What are the APIs going to look like? Are those REST APIs? Are those Graph APIs? It does matter. I mean, you could argue theoretically that it shouldn't matter, but it surely does matter. So you want to have that discussion between the two teams so there is some sense of agreement there, even if it is not yet locked down or etched in stone. So you say, okay, these are the 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 15 or 20 APIs. Excuse me. I think 15 to 20 is too many. You want to come up with a smaller number of APIs, and if there are too many APIs that the feature needs, then you want to make that feature small enough. So you're building aspects or smaller components within that feature, right? A combination of those components will give you all the pages, UI pages that you need, but you want to make them as small as possible. So you have a manageable number of APIs, right? Depending on your team size, it could be anything from like 3 to 5 to 10 to whatever. But let's say you talk about those 5 APIs, you get on a call, just iron out saying, hey, this is kind of what my route I think is going to look like. Here are the query string params, or maybe if it's a post request in the body. This is what I'm expecting for you to send me. This is the response code. It might be a 204 or it might be a 200. It's a 404, whatever the response codes are. And then you agree on a response in terms of JSON attribution, what the response structure is going to look like. And again, you don't have to go to the nth level of detail. Even if this sounds like a lot, we are able to get this done for 5 to 7 APIs in a call that lasts for less than 2 hours, actually, even if that sometimes, right? So we have a good idea, and then the teams go about doing their jobs. So let's say the UI team starts building the user interface, but before that they have a lot to do, right? You're going to have to create your wireframes and mockups, maybe if you have that as part of the process. Or in our case, we just hand draw it on one of the apps on iPad, and then we stick the screenshot, and we start building the components. And once we're done with it, we make sure that the UI looks all right, the experience is good, it does what it's supposed to do. We stub it out. We could be using Apiary or Swagger or a number of things in the backend. So it's just dummy responses. So we get close enough. And then when we go to integration, afterwards the API team starts working on it, and then we go do the integration. Yeah, things are not going to be like hunky-dory, but if 90% of what you've done separately works, then you did a great job, right? I've never seen it to be 100%. Maybe it's close, but not really 100%. If it's anything over like 80%, 85%, and you're only filling the holes and ironing out those gaps, then I think you did totally fine. and it keeps each of the teams productive at the same time, and they can move in parallel. And now when you go to integration, you realize that half of it is right, but the other half is not right. Then you know that you can do better. You have to identify what went wrong and make those improvements. And then if you find out that that hell broke loose, then there's a different problem altogether. Whatever your approach was, you want to do something that's quite different from whatever it was. That's about it. And if you haven't already downloaded our apps, just make sure you download the Snowpile app from the App Store or the Play Store, or go to the web and check us out. Manage your projects, plan your YouTube videos, plan your next semester in college or school. Whatever it is that you want to manage or be productive about, consider using us. You're definitely going to like it. Thanks a lot.